Hello. So as promised, I wanted to add another one of these ultrasonic sensors onto this, and I'll try to make this video really quick. This is the exact code that I left you off with last time. And of course, we could do this a couple different ways. Maybe the easiest way would simply be to copy and paste this function, for example, and call it, for example, echo 2 centimeter and inches 2 or something along that line, and then simply define yet another trigger pin and echo pin, which would be fine. It would work just great. I'm going to do it a little bit differently just because I want to. And what I've done is I've hooked up this second one here to pins 9 and 10. So I did actually do that for this part. I do trigger pin 2 and trigger pin 1. I made two variables to hold the final information, the left sensor and the right sensor, so both of these will have their own output. I did go ahead and redefine the pins. Of course, I have to do that. Get everything working in the setup. And then in the main loop, you can see that it's very similar, but I am now passing arguments here. Okay, and all I did was simply take and copy those two blocks of code identically, all right? And then instead of actually saying trigger pin 1 or trigger pin 2, I decided to just create a variable called trig, which is going to represent the pins. And when I put a number in here, say 9, 10, or 11, it's going to substitute in here, and that way I can use one function for as many of the ultrasonics that I want to. I just have to know which pin is hooked up to the trigger and which one's hooked up to the echo. And in fact, that's exactly what I did, and that's partly why I declared those variables up there, so I can remember it. So I know that the one of these, this one here, is hooked up to pins 9 and 10, and this one's hooked up to pins 12 and 11 for the trigger and echo. So let me go ahead and load this up, and we'll take a look at it. I'm going to pause it while it loads. Okay, so it's loaded up. Let me go ahead and get this old one out of here. We're done with that. And I'm going to move this up here so we can kind of see it. Move this over a little bit more. Sorry, should have rearranged it before I came back. And you can see that my left sensor here, although you can't see my hand yet, you can see the shadow. It's getting closer and closer and closer, and you can see the value. Now you can see my hand. You can see that it's measuring down, so I'm at about 5 centimeters. I'm actually going to be interested in catching robots that are attacking my robot at, I don't know, something less than 15 or maybe 12, something along that line. So if a robot gets about here, I swing to attack it. The same thing we do here. Now we're looking at the right, and it works just the same way. So I can use both these sensors simultaneously and get those kind of data points. All right, so let me go ahead and load up a little demo piece. I don't think there's anything more I need to explain about the software. Like I said, all I did was change it to arguments. So let me load up a demo piece with the robot itself, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, this is that little program we've been playing with on the OneBot motion. And again, keep in mind, this is not very good code. It's not very intelligent. It's just a bunch of if statements. But it demonstrates the principle. All I've done is I've literally copied this entire block from the last piece of code working with the ultrasonics and pasted it here. Okay, so I have all my variables. Scrolling on down, once again, I just copy and pasted all this information here, setting the port directions and initially setting these two ports low right here. Yeah, right here. Okay, so no writing of any new code. I'm going to go down here below. I decided I don't need both inches and centimeters. I'm just going to deal with centimeters. So I just copied this block of code and pasted it here. Okay, no changes. Everything's exactly the same. And then this is where we get a couple little changes. I had that check sensor function. All I've done now is added two more collections of data, which I'm going to be collecting the left distance and the right distance by calling this function down here, and then putting in the appropriate pins, the trigger pin and the echo pin. So I'm going to call the left and call the right and collect that data into here. And literally again, once again, all I did was copy and paste this line here and this line here. And no writing of unique code. And then here you can see I've just added 2 more checks to my basic operation. This is my main loop. Okay, the first thing it does is check sensors, and then it checks the value in these if statements of all those sensors that we're using. And in this case, I'm interested if either the left or the right sensor get a value that is less than 12 centimeters, well, maybe we should turn an attack. How far? Well, my robot turns about 90 degrees in 20 or 25 steps, so I decided to choose 20, and it would just rotate toward that robot. The default is forward slow. So I'm going to get this guy minimized, move this guy over so we can kind of see it. Let me load it up, and I'll pause again while it loads. Okay, it's loaded up. Let's turn it on. And I managed not to interfere with any sensors. You can see it's going forward slow. If a robot were to come over here on its right, it would steer toward it. If it came over here to the left, it would steer toward it. If something approaches from the front, it starts to rapidly attack it. And of course, I'll try to move the, oops, it's hard to get in there without interfering with the sensor. If a black line came across either sensor, of course the robot, oops, once again, I can't even get my hand in here. Well, you'll have to trust me. There we go. The black line will, of course, cause it to trigger. So everything's working great. So I'm going to turn this off. And for those of you, I'm not going to post this code, but what I am going to do is I'll hold it up here. And if there's something you need to add or lost or check, you can pause it at this time and copy this code. And then I'm going to move it down. I'll go from setup on down. And I'm going to pause it. You would pause it. You should be able to copy that. And I'm going to move it to the main loop. Okay, which also includes check sensors. And last but not least, the actual calculation of the function, which you probably already have. Okay, well, I hope that gets you started. Again, this is not great code. In fact, it's functional at best. But it's a good demonstration and shows you that everything works. And I will see you again soon.